Hey guys, it's just me today, and there's no camera on. I just came back from work, and I'm dirty, and I don't really feel like freshening up for this. Just kind of going at the top of my head, and there was something kind of been thinking about lately, and I tried to kind of attempt doing this subject last week with Trevor and Jay, but just time constraints didn't really pan out the way I wanted to, so just me today, and um, there's this article by GQ on the one and only AOC, and I was kind of going over it, and I noticed some things about it that really sort of I kind of illustrated a kind of a bigger problem, a bigger picture that I've kind of been noticing. Um, how do I put this? I think she sort of this article and where she's at mentally kind of captures a moment in time. I think a lot of people are in a very similar kind of mind state that she's kind of in. Because we have to sort of we have to sort of like look at who AOC is and why I think she's a kind of representative of a bigger problem that a lot of people find themselves in. Um, she's a person that sort of she kind of plays the part of of this kind of progressive political figure. Like she is a kind of poster child for it, and I'll leave a link in the description of like how her origins. There's a guy named Mr. Reagan on YouTube who does a pretty good video on essentially how she was casted to be this person. Um, just there's this image of her. She represents a sort of image that people want to um, sort of look forward to. When I see her and going through this article, and then I sort of noticed maybe the past maybe or so years, I've sort of just noticed like maybe it's always been there, but I've noticed a certain change in her demeanor. Um, she seems very like tense and anxiety prone, and I think a large part of that is what I've kind of been sort of mentioning is that a lot of people in like that they're in her position. They essentially have to sort of like keep up with this sort of act, this kind of image, and never thought I'd really say this, but going through this article, I generally feel sorry for her, and also kind of feel sorry for people that are in a very similar kind of state as she's in. I guess let me just sort of explain what I mean by that. Well, let me just start off by saying that I've known, of course, who she is for I don't know, like 4 years or something like that, and never never been a fan of hers, and uh, to this day I'm not. But whenever she would come on and there was a clip worth watching, I would check it out and just absorb what she said and just her demeanor. And I can every time I've watched her, I've noticed that she sort of reminded me of a lot of people that I kind of maybe have grown up with, but also just people I went to school with. There's a certain um, what would you call it? Like an attitude or a demeanor that she has that is really common, especially here in LA. Like I run into this kind of person all the time, and I think it's maybe it's a big city thing, um, but it's kind of hard to explain. But I think a lot of it has to do with this sort of hive mind kind of thing that's sort of going on, or that's at least been sort of exposed, or something that I've just fortunately sort of just started to notice much more due to like COVID, all that stuff. But they're just some similar traits, and I think, like I said, that she there's a lot of people that I think are in a very similar position to her. Um, Not just in a political sense, but maybe on a just a lifestyle sense. And there are these people that kind of they sort of, like I said before, there are people that they have to sort of put up and keep up with this facade, this kind of act. You know, they generally kind of have roughly the same opinions on things, and their general approach to certain big topics are usually kind of the same. And 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 when I see her now, I do feel kind of sorry for her because she seems like someone who's kind of trapped in this sort of world, you know. Like when you look in her eyes, like she seems like someone who just like their world is sort of like they're very protected, but they know that their world is sort of the world around them is kind of collapsing, and it's very dead-eyed. Like she's someone who like let's look at AOC for just a moment. Like look at these pictures for crying out loud. Like she's someone who there was a documentary on Netflix about her, television. Like she's been kind of propped up as this sort of messianic figure, and I think she's starting to realize that she's not cut out for this kind of world, but she's generally can't kind of get out of it. Um, and yeah, and I think this is a far bigger problem. I think she's sort of just the poster child for this kind of mindset, but I think this is a bigger problem that a lot of people are kind of just stuck in. And with AOC, she's been kind of propped up as this sort of this new breed of politics, like this young, fierce, uh, non-conventional, uh, like the sort of like renegade cop that like goes into the force and changes things and stuff like that. Like she's been propped up so hard, and I think it's gotten to her head, and to the point where she's now starting to realize, and a lot of people are starting to realize that what they've been led to believe, what they've been sort of propped up as, is not, you know, lining up with actual reality. And like the people around them, like their bubble is slowly starting to sort of like shrink and shrink, and they're kind of collapsing onto themselves through their own bullshit. Um, yeah, a lot of people, like I said, I don't think it's just her. I think she's just the the Michael Jordan of this type of person. But a lot of people, they they're in this sort of similar kind of trap where they have to sort of have the same opinions, believe in the same things, you know, vote the same way, think the same way, dare not venture off into any kind of outside, perspective. And doing that has, given them this sense of uh, like they've grown comfortable in being in that bubble, and now they're starting to realize that that bubble is getting smaller, and reality isn't what they think. And I've been sort of thinking about, why are people like this? Like, why do people find themselves in these kind of positions? And I think it's sort of, I think number one, this is something I just sort of noticed. A lot of these kind of types, they put a lot of, I would say, social weight onto their beliefs. Like, if you were to ask me my opinion on, I don't know, something like immigration, for example, or let's just go with a big controversial one, abortion, for crying out loud. My opinion isn't based on like not trying to offend anybody or trying to not offend anybody. It's just something that I've sort of come up with within years of looking into it, or just looking to different perspectives and thinking about it in my own way. My approach is very, I like to sort of stay fresh, but not, I don't totally commit to anything, especially big like that. But also, I always leave room for มีI'm wrong kind of shit. People like this, I don't think there is any genuine self reflection in their ideas. It's all based on, it's something that they just sort of grown up with, and it's all they know, and they've grown up thinking that this is the moral position to be on, because it's something that has been sort of pushed on them for so long through social pressure. But I also think through just the media, and the media that they consume is so uh, kind of curated for them to have a very specific opinion on things. Like, it's not so much that they came up to this conclusion on their own, it's they came up to the conclusion because everyone around them expects them to have this opinion. It's really, it's not a very good um, metric to live by, to come, to these kind of conclusions. So because of that, I think a lot of that kind of what would you call it? That need to have these sort of positions on things. It comes from like the sense of like they have so much to lose if they just deviate from any kind of opinion that they have, because they'll lose friends or something like that. They'll lose their sort of their social status. Um, they might lose their job. People like her, I think, might lose their job. They'll lose a sense of like a comfortable kind of way of living, and at a certain point, they become this type where it's like they're just expected to keep up a very specific position on things. And I think a lot of that has to do with just public pressure. And there's one part about that in this. I think it might have been this. It probably was another quote, but there's a lot of political power. Can't even read right now. Anyways, there's a lot of political power of a public opinion. There's a political power of social movements. There's a political power of platform, and in those ways, I feel powerful. Yeah, so like a lot of her opinion is based on, it's what the crowd kind of uh, expects from her and what she gets out of it. But I don't think this is something that only AOC's kind of is going through. Like I said, I think this is a bigger problem. Like if you're someone who, over the past 3 years or so, always had a very specific opinion that was very much like it was somewhat predictable. Like with COVID, your response was very much the television had this opinion, and I will not question that. Or, and this goes with not just COVID, but with the Kyle Rittenhouse thing, Black Lives Matter, everything going on with the public schools and the LGBT trans stuff. Like you have a very specific go-to opinion that is far more kind of pressed on you by a social pressure to keep up with. Because, and uh, and like I said, like I think that's the trap that a lot of people are really kind of in right now. And I think within this last couple of years, the anxiety that I've been noticing, I think that all stems from a sort of identity crisis that a lot of these people are kind of going through, where they're starting to come to the realization that what they've been led to believe, that the model citizen that they've been told to be, all that kind of shit, all that kind of very predictable kind of behavior, like I think they've been promised that being that person, having that opinion, never questioning, just absorb this opinion and recite it and go back to watching your Netflix show or whatever. um, and, if you keep on doing that, you'll be rewarded. I think they're slowly starting to realize that it's not lining up with reality. And I can kind of see where that kind of anxiety is coming from. Um, and like I said, I think this, as far as on a job related thing, I don't think it's just people that work within a political realm. I think it's other facets. I think it's if you work within kind of a very politically charged sort of union related job. I think the corporate world too, if you want to sort of get on up in that position, you have to continue on being this type of person. You have to believe a very specific, you know, set of things in order to, you know, be in good graces with the sort of mob. There's that. Also, like, I mean, public school teachers too, I think, are also in this kind of trap where, like I said, down the line, they have to have a very specific, almost predictable opinion on just about everything. Like, look at this. Where is this quote? Like, this right here just shows like that this person, AOC, but also just people like her, are just not happy because they realize that what they've been told as the model person, the good person, the person that everyone will like, you know, this isn't really like. Let me just read this. I think it's this one. I'm sorry, this is totally unorganized. Like I said, this wasn't really totally completely planned, but it's just something I've been kind of thinking about for a while. Anyways, I hold two contradicting things in mind at the same time. One is just the relentless belief that anything is possible, but at the same time, my experience here has given me a front row seat to how deeply and unconsciously, as well as consciously, so many people in this country hate women. That's not really part of that. And they hate women of color. People ask me questions about the future, and realistically, this is the part. Okay, let's read this little section. This is just, it shows that she's not happy. People ask me about the, People ask me questions about the future. And realistically, I can't even tell you if I'm going to be alive in September. And that weighs very heavily on me. It's not just the right wing. Misogyny transcends political ideology, left, right, center, and the patriarchy and all that kind of shit. But she's been brought up, and people like her have been kind of brought up to think that if you just side with a specific kind of ideology, then you are just going to be liked. And we're at a moment in time where that it's been exposed to that ideology, or the direction that that ideology is taking people is something that the regular person that doesn't give a shit about kind of ideologies and think that's like me just thinks that kind of shit is just stupid, that it's not something that we want. And in fact, we're not happy about it. We want the complete fucking opposite of it. And people like this just, they are inclined to believe that they just have um, that since they found some kind of success in being that type of person. They have some political job, they have some public sector job, corporate job, public school. They have this comfortable way of living that's within that kind of a system, that kind of bubble that and that backtrack that they've been on this that they lived that life and it's garnered them status uh some kind of status and also some kind of financial um what do you call it, like they're financially better off, but they just have to keep being this person. They have to down the line be this person. They have to and also ignore the reality of things in order to keep that position. Like it is like it's eating away at them. And how would I put this? Um, it makes me wonder too, and this might be kind of a harsh reality of all this kind of stuff, but there's no incentive for someone like her, just that type of person, to ever have any sense of reflection, to start listening to the concerns of the others. Because, like I said, they're just comfortable. They're comfortable financially, but it is eating away at their souls. It is eating away at the person that they hoped to be. And it's pretty sad too. It is generally kind of fucked up. It's fucked up in one sense, but for someone like an AOC or that type of person, they why ever change? I mean, really, why? I mean, they're going to be financially kind of well off, but that's kind of all they'll have. They're not going to be able to genuinely be themselves. And I think that's a lot of where this sort of division shit is kind of coming from. It's people that want to keep up the facade so they can just exist, and people that are tired of it and just want to fully express themselves. And the ones that, the AOC types, they have no reason to change. Really don't. I mean, she's definitely going to turn into a little bit of a monster. Um, just, or even a monster, best way to put it. Like she's going to turn into someone who has power, knows she has power, and but is consumed with this overall idea of good intentions that no matter what happens, no matter how unhappy people are and how much their their ideas and stuff like that is really not working out in favor of the supposed middle class that people like her really supposedly champion for. Because if she did, like, if she were to, I'm not really sure actually, but I don't think she's ever been on something like like Joe Rogan's show. And if she ever was, just to have a long conversation with someone like Rogan, someone like me, our perspective would completely just shatter her reality because she's a very, echo chambered kind of person who's well protected, and they have the, what do you call it, um, they have sort of like the backing of mainstream media to kind of help them out, to confirm that they're great and everyone else is wrong. Why why change? You know, seriously, why? And that's really kind of messed up. But I also think that this also exposes something else too, and I think COVID was a big eye opener for this kind of thing. But I think a lot of this shit sort of stems from just like how people like her approach these kind of things. They just sort of, uh, how do I describe it? They just sort of, they have a very specific bias, and they just assume, they just sort of jump into what the general popular opinion of their political side has, and just rolls with it, and that's kind of it. They don't really. I'm not. I think in there's a concept in business. Um, it's called the that's slipping my. I think it's called like the cost benefit analysis. I think it's called something like that. Um, but it's essentially sort of this idea of like if I have a business proposition, I might be confusing this with some other kind of principle, but anyways, let's just roll with it. It's this idea that if I had some kind of business proposition, let's say I wanted to, you know, make a whole line of pens or something like that, I would have to kind of go down the line and think, okay, what's cost, the most costly way that we can make these pens in a way that they're good quality, they're not too expensive, but also the market. We have to we have a market that will definitely be into them, and all these kind of like little factors go in the end. In the end, I'll be all, and in the end, we sort of just, if everything just sort of looks right, we go for it. If things are wrong, we sort of don't fully pull the trigger. Um, if any of this is making sense, people like her, they don't think about these kind of things. They just sort of, they just care about whether or not it sounds good, and that's kind of it. And I'm gonna kind of keep this relatively short, because I don't want to harp too long on this subject. But I do think that, like I said, this is going to sort of widen a kind of divide. Like in people. Because you have one side that is like her, who's just in their own little echo chamber. They get fed whatever, paycheck or status or, you know, whatever they get. They get some kind of a benefit out of it. And it's just enough for them to be comfortable. I mean, do you honestly think that AOC is going to go back to regular living after this? Like she was a bartender. Like, do you think she's ever going to go back to being a bartender? And I'm not knocking her for being a bartender either. Like I think that's a fine job to have. And even the idea that someone who was just a bartender is now, in the works. That is something to be, you know, to admire, but it does take the right kind of person, and she's not it. And I think she knows it. And I think she's starting to realize that there is a lot of people that maybe have very good concerns and very good rebuttals and things like that against her, but she can't go away from it. She will lose everything. Like if she was the slightest bit repelled, the slightest, if she tweeted out like, oh wait, know what? I saw the Kyle Rittenhouse video, and yeah, he was innocent. Like, can you imagine what would happen to her? Like, she has no reason to do that, and her world is slowly starting to collapse because, I mean, if she just quit, I would generally recommend her to just quit because I, if this isn't for you, then just leave. But she's sort of been, like I said, she's been propped up to be this fiery, you know, ethnic woman, and men don't are intimidated by women, all that crap. Now she can't go back. I mean, there's even a section in this article. I can't. I can find it. Shit. How would I find? Damn it. Yeah, I'll leave a link in the description of this article. But I believe she even talks about like her husband and that she's white, and there's like a rift between that. Like even in that sense, the fact that her husband is white, like it goes against the kind of it's a ding on her, what you call it, her ideological status, that she's in love with a white man, but she has to keep up the act, and she's never going to be happy. And I would say everyone else that is in that position, that you have to be that person. You have to say these things. You have to believe these things. You have to, have a specific set of opinions just based on social pressure, based on what Facebook told you. I mean, you're never going to be happy. And in fact, you're going to, in reality, push everyone else away. Because there's a lot more people that aren't part of that little bubble. And we see where all this shit is kind of going. That it won't be, that it will lead to just straight up unhappiness. that we don't want to live a life where we're just sort of taken care of. Or at least we're taken care of as long as we uphold this sort of these beliefs, this bullshit. Like we don't want that. And if you're the type that's just never going to change, like you're just going to be alone. I mean, look at her face for crying out loud in all these pictures. Like she looks just alone. Looks completely alone and just unhappy. That is not the look of someone who's really happy in life. And also, you have to touch on this too. Her, the people that are like her, they're very like obsessed with social media, and I think there's like now they're starting to see a backlash of people like responding on the other side of things and saying that, saying fuck you, this is bullshit, we don't want it, here's very good reasons why. And it's kind of, it's hard for someone like that to kind of grasp. Anyways, like I said, it's hard for this person to sort of break out of this, but I generally do recommend anyone, like if you're hearing this and you're starting to get some of that anxiety out of you and you kind of know what I'm kind of talking about, just let go of that shit. Like you don't have to maintain this kind of stuff. That anxiety you feel, that doesn't come from a healthy it's not healthy to have anxiety listening to people of different opinions or people that just don't see the world the same as you. Like I've had bad experiences with people, and all I just did was just say, I don't think that's right. I don't think that's generally correct. That isn't correct, and here's why. Or just asking people simple questions of like, why? Can you explain why you think this way? And just putting it like that gets such a weird reaction out of people. And I don't want to be around people that are just so tense like that. And if I'm saying it and I'm thinking it, I think a lot more people are. And, just let go of that shit. Because if not, you're going to push everyone else that actually has, that actually brings something different to the table away from you. You're just going to be surrounded by these supposed friends or coworkers, and you're just going to be trapped, not being able to be yourself. You're just going to be all alone. The only thing you'll have to keep you company at night is the delicious taste of boot leather on the tip of your tongue. So I guess that's kind of all I have to say about that. Um, bear with. I'm sorry if you bared with this. But yeah, this is just something I had to like kind of get off the top of my head because I am seeing this. I have been seeing this for quite some time, and when I went through this article, it sort of just kind of clicked, and yeah. So I guess I'll just leave it at that. If you enjoyed the video, please like, share, and subscribe. I promise the next episode I'll be on camera and I'll have other people on. Um, I would like to generally just do more solo based kind of stuff because trading ideas with other people is great, and I definitely don't want to stop that. But every once in a while, I just need to sort of unload on something. Um, so yeah, I'll just leave it at that. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for watching this real avant-garde episode of the Critical Introverts show. I'm your host, Senor Filth. Be on the lookout for my vending. I'm booked in Wilmington, California. I'll give details to that soon on the 8th. I just need to totally confirm. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Like, share, and subscribe. If you'd like to join in on the conversation and just ask, what the hell am I even talking about? Just leave a comment and all that kind of shiznit. All right, peace.